Welcome to RED35, and today we want to talk about videos. If you have been following our channel, then you know that we have filmed literally everything with the Olympus EM1 Mark II, and if you happen to be an Olympus fanboy or fangirl, then you know that this is their video month. So let's take this opportunity to look at various different Olympus cameras video features and why we choose the EM1 Mark II to film everything. For this, I had to carry 4 cameras with me today, and but lucky I have my Beryllium 25, which actually fits everything in it. All 4 cameras, by the way. So first of all, I have my EM1 Mark II. If you haven't seen the review of this, click the link there. And we have obviously my favorite Pen F. And if you haven't seen that video review, click the link up there. Also, our very sexy blue EPL9. And if you haven't seen a video, click it up there. And finally, my family camera, the EM5 Mark II. And if you haven't seen that video, click the link up there as well. And I got 2 more lenses. If you want the links up there, I'm going to talk about it later. That's all I have. But lucky for the Beryllium 25, and if you haven't seen the back review, we also have it up here as well. This is not a video, a technical videos, about all the bit rates or any kind of like very number related technical specifications of each of the video features. If you like that sort of thing, we're going to put the link down in the description so you can check out Olympus website for each of the camera that we are showing today. So this is more of an overview of the video capabilities of each of the cameras and whether it looks good on screen and how easy it is to produce good video clips, which is actually quite good, and why we actually think Olympus has been working so hard in pushing the video envelopes, trying to make it more of a professional tools for some of the filmmakers these days. The first camera we're going to look at is the Olympus EM5 Mark II, and this is a 2015 camera, so as you can expect, there were many 4Ks around, so this is no exception. But it does Full HD 1080 in various different frame rate, not bit rate, at 24, 25, 50, 30 and 60 frames per second. So you can actually get some quite decent cinematic in half speed. And also this, don't forget, this is actually Olympus' first attempt in getting more serious in the video world by putting a lot of features that a lot of videographer actually wants, like the mic input, which means you can mount a very decent audio equipment on top of it. But it hasn't got a headphone jack, and if you want that, you probably need to get the optional hand grip, which does have a dedicated headphone jack. You can actually monitor the audio if you want. So all in all, I think it's quite nice. You definitely can do some very interesting footage. The next one one up is one of my favorites, Olympus Pen F camera. It's a very important camera for Olympus as well. Not only is the styling, but also build quality and also technologically, because it's one of the first cameras to actually employ the 20 megapixel micro four third sensor, because most of them at the time were still 16 megapixel like the EM5 Mark II or Panasonic cameras. So this is actually very important to them. However, having said that, you know, they didn't upgrade the video capabilities from 1080 to 4K. So this is still a 1080 camera, but with the TruePic 7 the processor, it actually did upgrade it a little bit in terms of features, but including a high speed with super slow-mo video features. Then again, the resolution is actually in standard formats, which means 480, so it's quite a low resolution, and in 4:3 format, not 16:9 as well. So yeah, if you kind of fancy super slow motion in standard definition, this is the camera to go for. But like I said in my review, I actually do love this camera a lot in terms of still capabilities. But if you're just shooting in 1080, this is still a very capable camera. Next up is our workhorse Olympus EM1 Mark II, and this was released after the Pen F in 2016, and with the introduction of TruePic 8 sensor, they finally have a processor that is powerful enough to process enormous amount of data. So this is the first interchangeable body that has 4K features in the Olympus lineup, which is the big deal for them. And also they're really pushing for the filmmaking as well, so now they have both mic input and the headphone jack as well, which is wow, cool. So in the 4K feature, it does 4K 30 frames per second, and also Cine 24 frames per second as well in higher bit rate. In 1080 mode, it does the standard 25, 50, 30 and 60 frames per second. It doesn't, however, have any slow motion, not even at standard definition, so there's no high speed framing, so which is actually, I don't know, it's a little bit of a surprise for me, since they have a much more powerful sensor and also processor, so it's quite a surprise. But having said that, you know, it does produce some really stunning footage as well. That's why we've been using it for all our YouTube videos. The last camera we're going to look at is the 2018 Olympus EPL9, and this is of course the sexy blue edition. Well, having been a 2018 camera, it only means that you will definitely have 4K shooting capabilities and high speed, but even though it has the same powerful processor from the EM1 Mark II, the TruePic 8 processor, and a 16 megapixel sensor, but in terms of high-speed shooting, it still can only shoot 720p at 120 frames per second. So it's lagging a little bit still compared to some of the more modern rifle 1K, when they can even do like 1080 and 120 frames, and some even do 240 frames per second now. So in terms of the high-speed shooting, slow-mo stuff, Olympus is still lagging a little bit, but rumor says something's gonna happen. We'll see. But in the meantime, this is a very capable vlogging camera, like I mentioned in the review, and I do like this camera in terms of video features, because it does proper stuff. You know, in 1080 mode, it will do the same thing, like 25, 50, 30 and 60 frames per second, which it can actually do half speed, which is quite decent, and with the correct lighting and the proper lenses on, you can definitely get some decent footage. So unlike other cameras that I just talked about, this guy doesn't actually have any headphone jack or mic input, so that means it has to rely on the built-in mic. And even though I said that the Olympus built-in mics are actually quite good quality, but you know, sometimes if you want to achieve something slightly more professional, you might still want to have some sort of proper input. So this could probably be the only thing that I can talk about the EPL9, but same thing can be said on the EM10 Mark III as well. But if you, just like us, using external recording equipment, so that may not be a big deal. So I guess it's still kind of okay. want to talk about is stabilization. And as you know, that Olympus definitely has one of the most effective 5-axis stabilization system in the world. And in fact, if you don't know, Olympus actually invented and patented the 5-axis, which is actually pretty cool. And if you so happen to have the flagship camera like the EM1 Mark II, you know you're actually getting the latest and the best. Having said that, not all cameras are the same. You know, the Olympus EPL9 only has 3 axes, and the EM5 Mark II, the EM10 Mark III, and the Pen F, even though they all have 5 axes, but they're using slightly older generation, so they're not as effective as the EM1 Mark II. Still good, but if you want the best, EM1 Mark II that is. One more thing I want to talk about is screen, and I know this is a big thing for a lot of video guys out there because they like the fully articulated screen, which the EM1 Mark II, EM5 Mark II, and the Pen F all have fully articulated screen, which means you can shoot all kinds of angles, which is good. While the EM10 Mark III and the EPL9 doesn't, the EPL9 actually has a really weird screen that flips all the way down, and the EM10 Mark III doesn't flip all the way down. It just basically do the up and down like this. So I don't know whether that actually means anything to anyone. I know people kind of disagree with this flip down stuff because it blocks the tripod pole. That means you cannot mount the camera on the tripod while filming yourself because you can't see it. But I did ask a lot of vloggers out there because they actually prefer this for selfie, because you can actually have a better angle seeing yourself while framing a shot. That's all they say, so I cannot argue with that. Anyway, they do have their pros and cons. I just want to highlight to you guys. Another thing is the EVF, because across the entire Olympus lineup, apart from the EPL series, they all have built-in EVF, which is a plus if you're shooting in bright daylight like today. You can basically cannot see from the normal LCD screen, so you just have to put your eyes to the EVF, which is more effective and slightly better in judging your exposure. While the EPL series, apart from the 8, because you can actually add the external EVF on it, the EPL9 doesn't. So you really have to rely on the screen, and in bright daylight, this reflective screen can be a little bit tricky to see. This video is not about recommendation in a way like, you know, which one is the best camera for you for video filmmaking, but rather it's more about, you know, like giving an example of what all these cameras can do, even though they aim at different levels. So they're all very capable, depending on whether you need a 4K or not, whether you need slow-mo or not, whether you need a high bit rate or not. So you know, you have to decide in terms of your budget, also portability, weight, and everything into considerations. But for us, you know, we shoot professionally, and we need something that is rugged, that will give us high quality, ultra high definition footage like 4K. So the EM1 Mark II fits the bill perfectly. Having this stabilization is definitely something that we really, you know, think is the bonus for us, because we do a lot of running gun, a lot of location shoot. We don't want to lug around the tripod all the time, so this is definitely the best. But having said that, though, you know, we do have a couple of concerns about the EM1 Mark II. For instance, the low light capabilities, and also the lack of slow-mo or higher frame rate in 4K. It will be good in the next generations of EM1. It will have like 60 frames per second in 4K, or maybe even a log file, flat profile. We can grade the footage a lot nicer and bump up the low ISO, low light, high ISO performance. That would be really awesome. So in terms of video features, I think that will be it. And slow-mo. I do like slow-mo. I know Trace is not really a big fan of, but I do kind of like 120 frames. So in 1080, 120 frame will be quite nice on a EM1 next version. Yeah, I think so. But remember that, you know, like this is all about different cameras' capability. So judge it by yourself. You know, you don't have to always go for the top spec, because, you know, depending on really, you know, what sort of application you use the camera for. That's all I want to say. Well, hope you enjoyed the video just so and find it useful, and don't forget to subscribe our channel and put on the notification so you'll be reminded when our next video is out. So until next time, see you soon, bye! The best gone. Transcendent. Got some leaves. Nice. So we're going to take this opportunity to look at various different cameras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you register me? Register my voice. Register my voice. So the first video, best video. Okay. I have to pretend to be a tourist. Well, I'm talking now? Yeah. So not third one. It doesn't actually have any high-speed options, but it still does all the standard 1080 mode, which is 24, 25. I want to do what Michael Jackson does. I can't do that. So next up. Oh, come on. In 4K, unfortunately, they restricted to 30 frames per second at the moment, and they do have a cine 24 frames per. Okay. I need to relax. So all three of them would have the 5-axis stabilization at different versions. Different versions. But different versions. So this is, I think, don't quote me on that, this may have the sorry. Ow! When I talked to a lot of bloggers, they actually all said that. I hope you enjoyed the video and find it useful, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and put on that bell button there, and to be reminded that when I